After the rather anticlimactic ending to the 2022 growing season, I have to admit that I went a little bit crazy. I dove in really deep on the research in order to find out what can I do in order to increase my chances of growing a true giant. And through that research, I came to the conclusion that these two things will give me and you the most bang for your buck. So there's a large element of chance to growing giant pumpkins, and you can kind of think of it like buying a lottery ticket or something, right? And in a sense, what is the best way to increase your chances of winning said lottery? Well, you would have to buy more tickets, of course, which is not, a very financially wise thing to do, but the analogy stands in our case, right? So growing more plants, that gives us more tickets to the lottery and therefore a higher chance of winning. Or really just it decreases our variance. I'm limited on space since I don't live on a farm, so I'm doubling the plants from 1 to 2. So that alone is increasing our chances of success theoretically by 100%. I know that it doesn't totally work out that way because, if there's a horrible hailstorm, then both of the plants are just going to get shredded anyway, but that's what I tell myself. So the second thing, and the thing that most experienced growers are going to tell you, is the most important thing. If you're going to spend any money preparing yourself or going for this goal, this is what you should spend your money on. And that is getting a soil test and amending your soil. You may be wondering, what does that mean? Why do you need a soil test? It's just dirt, right? Well, all soil is different, and by getting a soil test, you can find out what your soil is deficient in, if the pH is okay, what soil type you have, and some tests, like the one that I got, even give you recommendations for what to add to the soil. I went around my patch, including the areas that haven't been converted yet and are still just grass, and I took small samples of the soil. Then you mix it all up, put it in a bag, and mail it off to Western Labs in Parma, Idaho. There's plenty of different labs that do this, but giant pumpkin growers like them in particular because they have a test specifically for giant pumpkin patches. And they'll come back and tell you, okay, if you want to grow a big pumpkin, you got to put this in your soil and this, and your pH is like this. I mailed off my sample and I waited for a week. I was very nervous, hoping and praying that I have good dirt. Well, the test came back and things did not look very good. As you can see here, I have highly acidic soil and it is deficient in just about every nutrient you can think of with the exception of phosphorus, and even that isn't that impressive. So we have our work cut out for us in a big way. So, looking at our recommendations, I chose to just take those as a kind of broad plan. I didn't do the math and add exactly this amount of this and this amount of that. I more just said, oh, okay, we're deficient in nitrogen. Let me get something that adds a bunch of nitrogen. And also I chose to go all organic so that the things I'm amending the soil with release very slowly over the course of the season versus washing out as soon as we have a big rainstorm. So after doing lots of research, I decided on 3 amendments for the soil. The first amendment is this: 5 yards, or approximately 5,000 pounds, of compost. Aged compost. I purchased 5 yards of this, and my good friend Jordan and I, over the course of 2 days, we loaded it up onto his truck and then backed it into my pumpkin patch and spread it out very nicely. It's really good having a friend who has a pickup truck and also likes manual labor. I don't know if I necessarily could have done this on my own, so thank you, Jordan. So compost has a ton of benefits. It is a very balanced, slow-release, natural fertilizer. It has pretty much everything in it because it's just broken down organic matter. This is yard clippings, leaves, and food waste, according to the company that I got it from. Compost also adds tons of good microbes to the soil. It helps to aerate the soil, which means make it more fluffy and less dense and compacted, which is good for our roots because they want to spread out. They don't want super dense soil. In addition to that, organic matter like compost can help to hold on to water in the soil and make the soil less hydrophobic. I kind of had that problem in 2022 when we had that horrible drought where the dirt became so dry that it was hydrophobic and the water would just run right off it. Well, if I had more organic matter in my soil, that probably wouldn't have been a problem because it would have absorbed that water instead of having it run off. Amendment number 2 is dolomitic lime. On the little chart that Western Labs gives us, you may notice something called lime, and that's otherwise known as agricultural lime or maybe garden lime. And chemically, that is calcium carbonate. It's really just crushed up limestone as far as I know. And the difference between agricultural lime and dolomitic lime is dolomitic lime has magnesium carbonate in it as well. So it does the same thing, it just also covers our magnesium deficiency that we have. And of course, the purpose of lime is to correct the pH of your soil, particularly to raise it. We have very low pH, which means we're highly acidic, and we want to bump it up to about 6.5-ish. That's what most people say is good. Really, if you're anywhere near 7, as far as I know, that's fine. So the main benefit of having proper pH in your soil is that it allows for the microbes and the fungi to break down the nutrients more easily and for your plants to absorb those nutrients more easily. So that's extremely important because eventually we're going to have a plant that's just ripping nutrients out of the soil like nobody's business. And the third and final amendment that I'm really excited to use and is very interesting to me are these. These are alfalfa pellets, which you may know as horse feed. You know, you'll just get them at Tractor Supply. They sell them in gigantic 50-pound bags. And the nice thing is that they're dirt cheap, but they're a great organic fertilizer. Particularly, they're high in nitrogen and potassium, which are the two macronutrients that we were lowest in. So I went and I bought 200 plus pounds, I believe 220, 250-ish pounds, just a bunch of the giant bags of it, and it was maybe $80 to $100. So all you gotta do with these is tear the bag open and start chucking them all around your patch. And over time, as water makes contact with them, they'll kind of puff up and degrade into smaller bits, and then those will get broken down by your microbes and release the nitrogen and potassium and lots of other things into the soil over time. And another interesting thing about these is that they allegedly contain a plant growth hormone called 1-triacontanol. And the efficacy of that is kind of dubious. I guess we'll have to see, whether that actually acts like a plant steroid or not. But the current world record holder, Travis Ginger, he does use these in his patch. So it's hard for me to believe that they don't help at all. So once you've decided on all your amendments, all you have to do is spread them out. You're gonna have to till them into the soil, which is kind of a major headache if you're like me and you don't own a tiller or you don't own a riding mower with a tiller attachment. That means you're gonna have to go to Home Depot and rent a tiller for the day. And once again, thank God I had Jordan with me because this was not a one-man task. I would have been dropping dead probably halfway through it. This was so physically demanding. It's like you're holding on to a raging bull for 4 hours at a time. Me and him, we just took turns tilling 2 strips at a time up and down the patch until everything was nicely mixed in.
That is perfect.
Holy shit. That was not planned, ladies and gentlemen. That ran out of gas at the exact last second. Once we had all those mixed in, we have this beautiful looking sea of loose, fluffy soil that is nicely amended, and hopefully a lot of those nutrient deficiencies have been addressed. All right, so there's been a change of plans. I got in touch with John Taberna, who's the head soil scientist over at Western Labs. Forget the hippie shit. I'm not doing all organic. I gathered up a couple of things we're gonna put in the patch to sweeten it up, okay? We've got potash, urea for nitrogen, potash is for potassium. We got triple phosphate, which is for phosphorus, obviously, borax for boron, some azose, some holystone, which is just for a little bit of added sulfur, some manganese sulfate for manganese, obviously, and then some humic acid, vein splitter. So we're gonna get this all spreaded out in the patch.